She was cleaning the lobby when the CEO overheard her speaking Mandarin, Spanish, and French fluently. What followed stunned everyone at the company. Most employees at Hauberg International barely noticed the cleaning staff. They worked after hours, quietly moving through hallways with their carts, emptying trash bins, and wiping conference tables, invisible like background music. It was Monday morning in downtown Fort Worth, Texas. The lobby buzzed with activity as employees hurried past, shoes clicking on tile, phones buzzing with deadlines, coffee cups clutched tight. Jonathan Kellerman, the CEO, was walking from the parking garage to his 18th floor office when he heard something that stopped him cold: fluent Mandarin. He looked around, expecting to see one of their international sales reps, but instead spotted a woman in a burgundy janitorial uniform. Her hair was pulled back neatly, and she stood by the lobby directory, calmly helping a confused visitor navigate the building in perfect Mandarin. Kellerman recognized her. He'd seen her working late evenings, always polite but quiet, never making eye contact unless spoken to. He didn't even know her name, yet here she was, effortlessly translating building directions in a language most Americans couldn't pronounce properly. As he stepped closer, she finished the Mandarin conversation and switched to Spanish, directing a delivery driver to the loading dock. Then, without missing a beat, she turned to a vendor with mislabeled boxes and explained the error in fluent French. Kellerman's jaw tightened, not from anger, but from guilt. He'd spent decades in global logistics, hired translators, built international programs, yet the most linguistically talented person he'd encountered in months had been cleaning toilets 2 floors below his office. "Excuse me," he said, approaching her. She turned, startled, but composed. "Yes, sir." "That was Mandarin, right?" "Yes, sir." "You speak it fluently? Spanish and French too?" She nodded. "Also Portuguese, German, Arabic, Italian, Swahili, and I read Latin, though I don't really count that one." He blinked. "You're telling me you speak 9 languages?" "Yes, sir." No pride in her voice, no arrogance, just simple truth. "What's your name?" "Denise Atwater." "Miss Atwater, are you free for a few minutes?" "I'd like to speak with you in my office." She hesitated, not from fear, but from that reflex people develop when they're used to being overlooked. She nodded slowly. "All right." In the elevator, silence settled between them. "I've worked here 13 years, she said suddenly as they rose toward the executive floor. "Never thought I'd be invited up here." He smiled quietly. "You might be surprised how quickly things can change." The elevator opened to the executive floor, polished wood, the scent of citrus and leather. His assistant looked up, wide-eyed at seeing Denise beside him. He didn't explain, just nodded them through. In his glass-walled office, he gestured to a chair. "Please, sit." She sat carefully, hands folded, eyes taking in the room. The world map with colored pins, family photos, awards from trade conferences. She wasn't impressed, just observant. "Denise, I'll be honest. I didn't expect to have this conversation today. But I just heard you speak 3 languages like you were flipping switches. And I need to understand how someone like you ends up working here, cleaning floors." She was quiet for a moment, eyes flicking to the window before meeting his gaze. "You got time for the truth?" "I wouldn't have asked otherwise." She sighed, rubbing her palms together. "I was born in Toledo, Ohio, only child. Dad was a pipe fitter, Mom a nurse's aide. They didn't have much but pushed education like religion. I got a full ride to Kent State, majored in linguistics, was halfway through my master's when Mom got sick." She paused. "I came home to care for her. Then Dad passed from a stroke 6 months later. Everything fell apart after that. I had a baby, no money, no partner who stuck around. So I worked whatever I could find: grocery stores, nursing homes, temp jobs. Eventually, a custodial supervisor here offered night hours. It let me pick up my daughter from school and pay the bills. That's how I got here." Kellerman listened without blinking. But I never stopped learning languages. I borrowed textbooks, listened to recordings, read newspapers in 5 different languages just to stay sharp. It's what I do, the only thing that makes me feel like I still matter. Her voice didn't waver. Most people never asked. They saw the uniform and assumed. That last word hung in the air. Assumed. Kellerman sat back, her story settling into his chest like a stone. Look, Mr. Kellerman, I'm not saying this to make anyone feel bad. I'm not bitter. Life happened. I did what I had to do. But you asked, and that's the answer. He exhaled slowly. Denise Atwater was brilliant. That was obvious now. But she wasn't asking for pity or handouts. She was giving him the truth, clean and clear. You ever think about doing anything else? He asked. She shrugged. Sometimes. But it's hard to dream when your rent's due. Silence fell again, dense with something unspoken, but powerful. Kellerman reached for his notebook and jotted down some lines. What are you writing? She asked, curious now. He looked up. Ideas. The conversation stuck with him all day. Around 3:45 p.m., he left his office and rode down to the building service level. He found Denise restocking supplies in the janitorial room. Mind if I bother you again? He asked. She turned, startled. You came down here? He smiled. Couldn't stop thinking about our talk. Listen, I have a favor to ask. There's a meeting upstairs, a group from our São Paulo office, and our translator canceled. Can you help? She hesitated only a second. Portuguese? Yes, I can do that. Minutes later, they were in conference room C4. 4 Brazilian executives sat awkwardly checking phones. Denise stepped in quietly and began speaking smooth, confident Portuguese. Kellerman watched the entire room shift, shoulders relaxed, eye contact sharpened. She wasn't just translating, she was bridging gaps, making people feel seen. When one visitor cracked a joke in Portuguese, Denise responded with laughter and a return joke that had them all chuckling. Kellerman didn't understand the words, but he understood connection. After 20 minutes, one exec turned to him and said in English, "She's better than anyone we've worked with this year. Where'd you find her?" Kellerman looked at Denise, who was already stacking empty cups. "Right here," he said. In the hallway, he caught up with her. "You ever do professional translation before?" She shook her head. "Just helped folks in hospitals, government offices. No certificate, no time for school. My daughter needed me more." "And where is she now?" "She's 26, a nurse in Tempe, paid for school herself, stubborn like her mama." They both smiled, and for a second, it didn't feel like CEO and janitor, just 2 people talking about life. That night, Kellerman sat in his car for a long time before driving home. He thought about everything: pressure to grow the company, investor meetings, endless discussions about diversity and untapped talent. All this time, they'd been looking outside, recruiting globally, but sometimes the gold's already in your backyard. The next morning, Denise's badge beeped at the wrong time. Her supervisor Ron approached with an unusual look. "Hey, Denise, Mr. Kellerman wants to see you again." "Did I do something wrong?" "He didn't say, just told me to send you up." She followed the same path as the day before, only this time everyone seemed to notice her. People looked up, whispered. One receptionist even smiled politely, like she knew something Denise didn't. In the executive suite, Kellerman stood by the window sipping coffee, staring at the skyline. "Come in," he said without turning around. She stood quietly by the door until he faced her. "I've been thinking about talent waste," he said, placing his mug down. "How many people never get a shot? Not because they're not good, but because nobody looks twice." Denise said nothing. She'd seen too many people talk big and do little. "I want to create a new position that didn't exist before, something this company badly needs. Cultural liaison for international affairs. Someone who can speak the languages, Read between the lines. Handle visitors, vendors, documents. All the global touchpoints were constantly fumbling through. Her mouth opened, but no sound came. You're qualified, probably more than most people in our leadership team, and you've already proved you can handle it with grace, patience, and intelligence. She stared at him, eyes narrowing. This real? As real as it gets. I don't have a college degree. You have something better. Lived experience, commitment, and fluency in 9 languages. You think I care about a piece of paper? She shifted her weight. Why me? He looked directly at her. Because I watched you solve 3 problems in 3 languages before 9 a.m. yesterday. And because I'm tired of walking past people like you, people doing twice the work for half the credit. Denise crossed her arms. You know what people are going to say. I don't care. She stared at him, then let out a slow breath. I've never had an office job, never had a title. You'll learn fast. I don't have a wardrobe for this. HR will send a clothing stipend. She chuckled dryly. You thought of everything, huh? I'm trying. A long pause stretched between them. What about my shift downstairs? Who replaces me? Kellerman smiled. We'll find someone. But no one can replace you. She looked down at her hands, then at him. You sure this isn't some kind of favor? He shook his head. This is overdue recognition. Her eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears away. All right then. Let's see what I can do. He extended his arm. And she shook it. It wasn't just a handshake. It was history being rewritten. By Wednesday, news had traveled faster than the elevators. Denise Atwater, the night shift janitor, had been promoted to an executive-level position. Nobody knew the full story. Just whispers that she spoke multiple languages, that the CEO had personally chosen her. Some folks were curious, others smiled and said, good for her. But not everyone was clapping. In the staff lounge, 2 marketing assistants leaned close over lunch. I'm just saying, one whispered. I have a master's in international business, and I've been waiting 2 years for a promotion. This lady was scrubbing bathrooms last week. That energy trickled into boardrooms and private messages, quiet resentment mixed with confusion. People weren't used to upward moves coming from outside the usual ladder. Denise felt it the second she stepped into her new office on the 12th floor. It was modest, just a desk, plant, and computer, but to her, it looked like another planet. That afternoon, she met Victor, head of international operations. He walked in with a clipboard and tight expression, didn't shake hands. So you're the new liaison, he said, like it was a joke wrapped in politeness. That's what I'm told. You have experience in corporate environments? She smiled, only from the outside looking in. He didn't laugh. I've got reports from Italy, contracts from Dubai partners, and a vendor issue in Sao Paulo. Think you can manage that? She stood up. I'll need a few hours to review, but yes. Victor dropped the folder on her desk and walked out. That night, Kellerman stopped by her office. How's day 1? She leaned back in her chair. I've had worse. He smiled. Victor give you a hard time. He doesn't scare me. She paused, then added, Can I ask you something? Anything. Why now? Why me? You could have just given me a bonus and kept moving. He leaned against the doorframe. Because I saw myself in you. She raised an eyebrow. You were a janitor? No, but I was overlooked a lot. I came from nothing. My dad fixed cars in a town nobody visits. I worked 3 jobs through college. People thought I didn't belong in rooms like this. Denise nodded slowly. Now, you're the one deciding who gets in. Exactly. There was a beat of silence before Denise looked at the file on her desk. I'll be honest, I'm nervous. Good. Means you care. There's going to be people who hate this. They'll get over it, or they won't. Either way, we're moving forward. He stood straight. You have a story, Denise, a real one, and now you've got a platform." After he left, Denise looked around her office. She remembered years of crying in bathroom stalls during breaks, nights coming home with aching feet and barely enough energy to heat soup, birthdays missed, promotions watched from the sidelines. She opened her desk drawer and placed her old janitor badge inside, not to forget, but to remember exactly what it took to get here. By week's end, her nameplate was mounted outside her office. Denise Atwater, Cultural Liaison, International Affairs. Black letters on brushed steel. Official. Clean. Permanent. A company-wide email hit inboxes Friday morning, sent by Kellerman himself. Short, clear, carrying weight. He explained her role, background, and value, not framing it as charity or feel-good gesture, but making clear she was the best person for the job. But that didn't stop the noise. Some managers grumbled. Others softened once they saw her in action. She navigated conversations with foreign clients better than software, corrected costly mistranslations in old contracts, and never showed off. Just worked quietly, smoothly, better than anyone expected. Monday brought a meeting with a delegation from Morocco. The company's North African expansion had been stuck for months over miscommunication and mistrust. She walked into the room in a soft beige blazer and introduced herself in fluent Moroccan Arabic. The room changed. You could feel the shift. People leaned in, listened. Because when someone speaks your language, you don't just hear words, you hear respect. After the meeting, one Moroccan partner approached her privately, touching his chest gently in traditional gratitude. "No one's ever done that for us. Not in our language, not like that." Denise nodded. "You matter. That's all." By midweek, Kellerman made another move. He renamed the company's main training room where new hires gathered and leaders held workshops. The old plaque came down, replaced with the Atwater Room. No big announcement, no party, just a quiet sign that meant more than flowers or cake ever could. That afternoon, Kellerman stood outside watching new interns file in. He heard one whisper, "Who's Atwater?" A senior staff member answered, "She's someone who reminded this place that greatness doesn't always come in a suit." That same day, Denise found a sealed envelope on her desk with no return address. Inside was a note. "I used to think I'd be invisible forever, but today I stood a little taller because of you. Thank you." No signature, just proof that people were watching, people who needed to see what was possible. But not every door stays open without a fight. Late Thursday, Denise was called into a meeting, not by Kellerman, but by Eleanor Craig, a senior board member from Dallas. Sharp suits, sharper tongue. "Have a seat," Eleanor said without looking up from her papers. Eleanor tapped her pen twice. "Miss Atwater, I've reviewed your file. You have no college degree, no corporate training, no management certifications." "That's correct. You were a janitor here 3 weeks ago." "I was." Eleanor leaned back. "Help me understand how someone with your background is now handling high-level international affairs." Denise held her gaze. "Because I speak the languages, understand the cultures. I've already fixed 2 vendor contracts and cleared a 3-month delay in our Morocco deal. I also helped secure a verbal agreement with our Brazilian partners that legal is finalizing next week." Eleanor pursed her lips. "You think this company should be run on instinct and charm?" Denise smiled slightly. "No, ma'am. I think it should be run on results." Eleanor blinked, the first time Denise had seen her hesitate. "I don't need to be liked," Denise added quietly, "but I do need to be useful. And I am." Eleanor stood and closed the folder. "You're a gamble." "I'm used to that," Denise said. "My entire life's been one." After the meeting, Denise didn't return to her office. She walked outside and sat on a bench across the street, staring at the glass tower she now worked in. So many years she'd walked past that building in the same uniform, carrying cleaning supplies, wondering if anyone saw her. Now they all did, and some didn't like it. She called her daughter. "Hey, Ma, everything okay?" Denise hesitated, then nodded to herself. "Yeah, just needed to hear your voice." They talked about nothing important. Groceries, her daughter's dog, a new movie. But just hearing her laugh steadied Denise. After hanging up, she sat in silence, then stood, walked back across the street, and rode the elevator to her floor. By the next morning, word of the Eleanor Craig meeting had spread. To everyone's surprise, Denise didn't back down. She showed up early, spoke at a team meeting, took a call with the German office without needing a translator. Calm, sharp, unbothered. That same day, a handwritten note appeared on the whiteboard outside her office. "We see you." No name, just 3 words that meant the world. In the following weeks, something remarkable happened. People started coming to her, not just for translation, but advice, guidance, confidence. She became the person others consulted before pitching ideas. She'd sit with interns before big presentations, never talking down to anyone. One intern, a shy Vietnamese kid named Bao, asked, "How did you learn all those languages?" She smiled. "One word at a time. Same way. You will." Denise wasn't just doing her job. She was changing the culture. One afternoon, Kellerman joined her for coffee in the break room. "Been hearing good things." She sipped from her cup. "Been trying to ignore the bad ones." "You're making waves." She looked at him. "That a good thing?" He smiled. "Around here, it means you're doing something right." They stood in comfortable silence. "You know," he added, "I've been thinking about starting a training program for internal talent, especially folks in non-desk roles. There's probably more Denises in this building." She nodded. "There are. They just haven't been seen yet." "Want to help me build it?" She smiled. "Already started in my head." By month's end, the pilot program launched, a new initiative called Voices Inside, designed to give workers across all departments access to language training, leadership mentoring, and visibility across divisions. It was Denise's idea, and it caught fire. Eventually, she was invited to speak at a logistics leadership summit in Cincinnati. She told her story, not as motivation, but as reality check. "I was never just a janitor," she said to the crowd. "I was fluent, capable, ready, but nobody ever looked long enough to see it. So next time you pass someone without a title, ask yourself, what are you really missing?" The room fell silent, then erupted in applause. On her way out, a young man approached with tears in his eyes. "My mom's a housekeeper, and she speaks 5 languages. I used to be embarrassed to say that." Denise touched his arm. "Don't ever be ashamed of where you come from. The only thing to be ashamed of is staying blind to brilliance. Never assume you know someone's worth based on what they wear, where they work, or what their resume says. Talent has no dress code. Intelligence doesn't need permission. And brilliance can walk past you wearing a name tag, holding a mop. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or ignored, keep going. The right person will see you. And when they do, don't be afraid to take that seat at the table. Better yet, bring a few more chairs with you."